Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Happy Friday, Phil, and to everybody out there in listening world. Excited to be here for another podcast.
Happy Friday, everybody. Mike, we just had a bunch of laws passed. I think there were like 15 or 16 laws in our state. They just, went into effect a couple of days ago. And one that stuck out to me was House Bill 1205 that classifies knowingly distributing a forged digital likeness of another person as criminal impersonation in the second degree. So it goes on further to just basically, if you do anything, fake a picture, AI, and you talk about a person in what they perceive in a negative light, the way the wording goes, you can get locked up now. And I love the law, the way they have it worded. I'll send it to you if you're interested.
Now, Phil, this is Washington State.
Washington State,
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yep.
Because the AI has reached a point now that's just freakishly real. And I'm not even just talking about the visuals. There are now voices. I thought that I was still up to date on voices and I could just like recognize the voices, but no, some of them have slipped by me now. They're very conversational now.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other state that has a law like this. If it is, I'm thinking that there's only maybe a handful or less. I'm thinking that moving forward, laws like this are going to be common. And we're going to see more rules and regulations like in school, HR departments, companies, things like that.
I think, it's an interesting time. The AI thing, I would put it back to something along the lines of, maybe 20, 25 years ago, you had, it still happens today, but there was always a discussion about counterfeit money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And counterfeiting was very difficult. So not everybody could do it. And today, what's changed, and we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, technology, everybody has the ability to do things that couldn't have been done in the past in-house, whether it's writing or publishing or music or video production or probably counterfeiting or AI. And so AI is a good example of this. But what's different about AI is that, and where it is similar to, say, counterfeiting money, is it is a serious issue if you are doing something that's detrimental to somebody else or misleading somebody. So the problem is that it isn't become very easy to do. And every day it gets easier and easier, right? So I agree with you. Like, you can watch shit. I'm getting to, I'll be totally truthful. I'm getting a little tired of AI just in general. Because if you scroll for 10 minutes through Facebook or TikTok or any of the social media platforms, you're going to get some kind of videos of, I saw yesterday an avalanche that came down and hit a bunch of people, or you get a video of devastation of a flash flood or whatever. Lots of different scenarios. Oftentimes, quote, news items that are just simply not real.
Right.
They're not real. And originally, when AI, particularly videos first hit the scenes, you'd watch it and you'd be like, okay, that doesn't, everybody's got three legs, or, everybody's missing hands, or, you know what I mean? Like, there was always something wrong with it. It was glitchy. But now I got to tell you, now you'll get some videos and stuff that you'd swear to God are real. other than the fact of you didn't hear it on 7 different networks, so well, shit, this earthquake that they're saying happened in this building that collapsed, it can't possibly be real because I don't hear anything about it in the news, but it looks real,
Mike,
so
there's a famous writer, director, and actor. He was a fat guy. I can't think of his name any longer. He became a spokesman for a wine company.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
But before he got into,
can't remember now. Yeah,
before he got into movies and television, he was in radio, and he was part of a historic radio broadcast that was about a Mars or an alien invasion. And there was a portion of the country that actually believed it.
Yep.
The reason I bring that up is I'm predicting at some point a similar thing. I wish I knew what the name of that radio broadcast was. It was a famous historical event. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can't want to say Lorne Michaels, and it's not Lorne Michaels.
Oh.
I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
But the point I'm making is I believe that there's going to be something produced that's going to create some kind of hysteria that's going to cause harm.
Yes.
Physical and financial.
And potentially economic or political as well, because I mean,
yes.
Some of these things, we've talked about this a lot where we think people are dumb, and unfortunately I'm going to stand by the fact that I think people are dumb, and I think people ultimately are going to believe some cockamanian story that occurs and take action because of it.
Yes. I'm thinking about, I watch a lot of documentaries and movies about the White House and being in the war room, making decisions. And a lot of those big decisions, maybe to take the drone shot or not, are made by, hey, we have this footage of him doing this or whatever. What I can see people faking that and faking it at different levels. It could be sabotage. It could be.
It's one thing if I fake it to you
right.
and I show you something, but it's a whole different thing if, let's say, like you said, it was hacked into and the Secretary of State get this video and it looks like one of our warships just got attacked in Yemen or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and that's my point. It could be sabotage, but it could be our government wanting to make us feel a certain way about a war. I mean, they've done it before.
Russia is a good example of that. This is how they run their entire campaign. Yeah.
So this can turn out to be very, very, very dangerous. And we have a society, especially here in America, that are very emotional and irrational about things. Often we get the first bits of information about something and the masses overreact.
Yep. Almost on every item, for sure. We're very gullible.
Speaking of overreacting, Mike, I need a little moment to kind of air out something.
Okay.
Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, and Gayle King were part of a crew that completed their Blue Origin flight on Monday.
Yeah.
Before I get going, what do you think about that?
Oh man. I'll be honest, I didn't think a whole lot about it at all until I, inevitably was spending some time online and listening to some other people. And then there were several things that were brought up by various parties. And I'm just going to call them parties for now because I'll try to leave politics and opinion out of it. But one of the first accusations I saw was that this was like a PR stunt from the standpoint that,
yeah.
Well, I mean, So let's do a comparison. Somebody said this. They summed it up pretty well, I thought. What do you think the two astronauts that got stuck up in space on the space station for almost a year thought about all of the hoopla about these people going up what amounted to be for about 11 minutes? Not even in space, by the way.
Right. The all-female crew spent just 4 minutes in zero gravity space and took much of the time to mug for the camera inside their space capsule.
Yeah. Yeah. And then landed and kissed the ground and all sorts of other dramatic stuff. So the contrast I found to be a little bit overplayed. Now, I at risk of bringing this up, I don't know if you've seen any of this controversy about whether people are there's some conspiracy theories thinking the whole thing was faked or staged or whatever in the first place, because there was a moment on camera where Jeff Bezos I know there was a moment where they opened the door of the capsule and then closed it, and then Jeff Bezos came to open it. So, there was some argument, there was discussion online whether or not those capsules can even be opened from the inside. So was this a real capsule? The windows appeared larger than they're supposed to be. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything personally, scientifically about this, but
it didn't look like something that could survive the flight.
It did not.
It was almost all windows.
Yeah.
And the other, what it reminded me of? It looked like one of those Dometic tents that you fill up with air.
Yes. Well, here's the other problem I saw. I don't know if you watched some of the video. Well, I watched pretty much what I think to be all of the video that came out of there. And there was a lot of social media posing for cameras on board. But at no point did I see any of them looking out the window or anything out the window. Like it was like all about them.
Right.
So I don't know, man.
Mike, I'm
not a conspiracy guy, but man, I don't know. This whole thing seems weird.
I have no problem with any entrepreneur taking the Barnum and Bailey approach about his product. And that's what that was. I don't have a problem with them kissing the ground and acting like they did something great. Any of that.
It was a marketing stunt.
Right. My issue starts at the point where the media becomes a partner in that. Yeah. And not only that, when I juxtapose the media coverage for this, when you couldn't find coverage on the astronauts, and that was like a real story. That's the kind of story they write a movie about with Tom Hanks in it.
That's right. Except
it seems like women are not as insulted by things like this as I am. I think I'm more of a true feminist than most women are. Because I'm like, I would be insulted that they're making it like they did something special when there literally are women who have done stuff special. And I just want to mention
the one that just came back, by the way, who was stuck up in space for a year.
Right. And that actually did some kind of research that was for the benefit of humankind, not social media.
Right.
You have Valentina Vladimira Tereshkovka, who was a Russian engineer and former Soviet cosmonaut. She was the first woman in space. Then you have here in America, you have May Carol Jemison. She's an American engineer and astronaut. She was the first African-American woman to travel in space and serve as a mission specialist. Those are like, so it's not like there's not women who have reached those levels. So it's embarrassing to...
Well, the whole premise, Phil, of this was embarrassing from the standpoint is like, it was an all-female crew. Well, that's misleading.
I'm good with that.
But that's also misleading. Very misleading, because this was not a ship that was piloted. This was
basically a drone.
It was a drone. It was controlled from the ground. So I mean, I don't know. The whole thing was a sham. So maybe they didn't. I mean, they could have went to 30,000 feet for all I know. I don't know what they did.
Let's say they did what they said they did. That was nothing.
No.
I could have sworn when I was living in Las Vegas, you could go to the airport and there was this company where they had this special plane that they'd ride you up to zero gravity and you could float around. Yeah. I don't see anything more special about what they did than
same. Yeah, it's the same, more natural, but the same. And my other struggle is then you got Gail King, who, I mean, I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be fair with you here. I've never liked her. Like, okay, I've just never liked this woman.
I am a Oprah, Gail King. You can't hate more than me.
Okay, well, we're on the same team there, I guess. But and then she's just like taking an edgy approach after she's all pissed off at like everybody about. And
she's standing on that they did something groundbreaking, like they saved lives or something.
Yeah,
she's disgusting.
Yeah, she's the worst of the bunch, to be honest.
Mike, what are the Democrats doing right now?
Phil, I don't know. I would say the same thing they've been doing for the last year. Not a lot.
Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democratic Maryland senator, he was denied a visit with the Salvadorian illegal immigrant that he went down there to visit. What is he doing going down there to visit? And also today, Cory Booker, you know who Cory Booker is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's announced he's going to fly down in the next few days to do the same thing. What is going on?
All right. So let's just, this is my opinion on this entire controversy that we've got going on with this guy from Maryland. And I'm looking right now on my computer screen. I don't want to get the guy's name wrong, but what's his name?
Kilmar Árego Garcia.
Yeah, Kilmar Árego Garcia. Okay. So there was mistakes made. Okay. The guy was deported incorrectly. I'll just leave it at that. And the administration originally admitted that they screwed up because a judge a number of years ago had made a determination that he could not be deported to El Salvador. So they in my opinion, they rightfully took custody of him because he was an illegal immigrant in the United States. So the fact that they picked him up was not incorrect. The fact that they deported him to El Salvador based on our U.S. court system was incorrect. They made an error. Okay, let's get over that for a second. Move past that. The issue with this entire thing is, I mean, can we all just take a moment to breathe for a second, particularly the Democrats that are flying down to El Salvador to I don't know what they're trying to accomplish, but he is an El Salvadoran citizen. He is in his home country right now. The president of El Salvador has declared that he is not willing to release him.
I love it.
None of that, by the way, is got anything to do with you, me, Trump, the Democrats, or anybody else. Like, we are Americans, we are America, and we have nothing to do with this. I don't think people are missing the point about this. Is that he is not an American. He is an El Salvadorian citizen, and he is in El Salvador. Whether he's there because we screwed up and put him there, or he went there on his own, or somebody else, that's irrelevant at this point. And I think it's been stated that if he was released and sent back to the United States, which, by the way, would be illegal, as the president of El Salvador has correctly brought up, that would be called smuggling, because he's not granted. He's not a legal he has no legal path to America. So the only way that he could get here would be illegally a second time. We could pick him up and ship him out again. So that, to me, that seems nonsensical for the media to pick this up and say he is a Maryland father of 3 children who is missing his kids and his wife. This is once again back to the emotional drama part of this whole thing. And by the way, I'm not suggesting that isn't all true, but that isn't the point here. The point is that he is in El Salvador, and we don't. It is super pretentious, particularly on the part of Democrats right now and those Democratic senators, but really on the part of all Americans, to think that we have some control over El Salvador. That's a sovereign nation. So let's take a step back here. Stop being pretentious. He's not. We don't control the world.
I agree with everything you said, and I'll take it a step further. It's been confirmation from different law enforcement organizations by different judges in different states, all that he is a MS-13 gang member. And I could have sworn that we made MS-13 a terrorist organization. So why
that's
would
Trump's argument?
I
agree. No, well, what I'm saying is that's Trump's argument for the fact that he shouldn't be in America. So right, wrong, or indifferent,
but
you shouldn't be in America because he wasn't granted legal citizenship or legal right to be there. So whether or not he's in a gang or not is irrelevant. There is a fair amount of proof to say that he is, which he is in a gang. And I saw last night that his wife, who's been defending the shit out of him and trying to be on TV, tried to get a restraining order,
right,
and about a domestic violence incident and stuff. So, I mean, these are things that the media is not, once again, fairly covering, because they never do. But I just find it interesting that all of a sudden we have a bunch of, quote, Americans, particularly American leaders, flying to El Salvador. For what purpose?
That's where my issue starts at, Mike. That's where I don't care about none of the other stuff that you was just talking about. I agree with everything that you said, but issue comes for me that a United States government official is going out of his way, going out of the country to look over the welfare of a non-citizen.
Right.
I don't care if he's illegal or legal or whatever.
Right.
He's not American.
Correct.
You're not voted in to have that person on your agenda. Right. Now, if you're saying I'm going to take a couple of weeks off and I'm going to do this in a non-official manner, not using my title or any of that, go do your thing. But as a United States official, as a senator, I feel like you are derelict in your duty. I believe there should be some kind of impeachment for that you should be able to lose your job.
I got to imagine that. I mean, I don't know, but I'm also assuming that this is probably taxpayer funded them flying there.
I believe that he probably didn't, because people were talking about it before he left. So he may have like,
got George Soros to pay for it.
Right. But that's my problem more than anything. I don't be caring about the details of any of these situations. Why are you picking their side?
Now,
and either you an American or you not. Because if I go somewhere, take this same story and don't even make me a gang member. Make me a good person. And I was in another country illegally, and I had a kid with one of your citizens and married them, and y'all decide to send me back to America. That's just the end of it.
Right. Yep.
That's just the end of it.
I know, and that's the point that's being missed here is that if we're gonna, so you've got, and I'm not picking on the Democrats entirely on this. It's not just them, but for them, for a group of people to say, you know, I mean, on one side they're arguing against being an isolationist country, and then on the other side of this argument, you're basically having a bunch of guys saying that we should be controlling the world and be involved in it. So, like, you got to pick your poison here. I mean, the reality is that this is not an American issue. We messed up, and we should not have clerically done that. But by the way, that was a court order. Okay. One could argue that the judge that initially said that he could not be deported to El Salvador was in the wrong from the standpoint of he's an El Salvadorian citizen. The fact that his life was threatened in El Salvador, not to sound inhumane, but is not really part of our agenda, right? I mean, that's an agenda.
It should be the agenda of the Salvadorian government to protect its citizens.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's my point. So we tried to do the right thing, I think, in saying, look, we could, if this guy's getting deported, send him somewhere else so he's not killed by a gang. We tried to do the right thing. We screwed up many years later here by sending him back there. I can understand how that would happen because you pick up an El Salvadorian and he's there illegally. That's where I would send him to. But it happened. And this once again, this is I mean, I feel like a broken record, but this is kind of like another big nothing burger. I feel like this is once again, it goes to what I'm now deeming the Phil theory on democratic politics. It's you're picking the 20% loser again. They're doing the same thing. This is a loser. This is a nothing burger. You're not going to win this, right? You're not going to win this. I mean, you could poo-poo and talk about the CCOT and the nasty prison and all that stuff. But at the other, what are you going to just close your eyes and ignore the fact that El Salvador is the safest country in Central America, that it turned the situation around in less than 4 years, that it has taken many bad dudes off. I mean, have you seen pictures of that prison? And you look at those people lined up, all bald heads and all the rest of the stuff. Every one of them, almost every single one of them has the trademark gang tattoo on them.
All over.
Yes, this is not made up or bullshit or whatever. This is real shit. And I mean, the story that I heard, when you read the facts, when you delve into this situation, this guy, when he was picked up in 2017 or 19 or wherever, he was hanging out in a parking lot of Home Depot or wherever with 3 other guys that were gang members. Yep. They had a bunch of money and drugs on them. So, I mean, you're painting this guy like he's like the innocent whatever, but that's not a reality. And the problem is that he has rights being on American land. That is true. But one of the rights is we have the right to deport him.
Amen.
I mean, he could have been deported way back then. And it basically was by the way, it's a clerical error that he's still in the United States, because what they did was they decided that he was deportable, but he couldn't be deported there. And then there was no action taken. So he was basically roaming around the streets for the last 5 years in limbo.
Like a lot of people.
Like a lot of people. So, I mean, I don't really get, I feel like the Democrats have signed up for the 20% program on this again.
I agree. So, Mike, this is a good week. And it's a good segue. We're going to get this all cleared up by the Supreme Court sometime in the next week or two. The argument for birthright citizenship is going before the Supreme Court starting today.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I would like to give you an analogy for citizenship in the way I feel about it, Mike.
Okay.
If someone were to ask me how to explain what I thought about the United States citizenship, I would say it reminds me of a sports hall of fame. Pick any sport, your favorite sport that has a hall of fame. It's not everybody gets to get in. And in order to get in, you have to have certain qualifications, and not just qualifications, because there's other people that make the team that don't make the Hall of Fame. You know, you could get a green card, you could maybe come here and work for a year or maybe come get educated, but to be a citizen, that's the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And just like how the Hall of Fame in most sports has changed to a point now where you're starting to see people get into these Hall of Fames and you're like, he wasn't that good. He wasn't. And that's what is happening with U.S. citizenship. We are diluting it by allowing so many people that shouldn't be here enter and making it so easy to enter here. When I was young, I went to Japan, and it left an impression on me so strong that I contemplated moving there. This is like my 20s, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And my only deterrent was how much money I had to come up with if I was going to move there and become a citizen. And then I went on to inquire and come to find out that that's pretty much standard in most countries, that you got to come with, you have to be able to show them that you are financially fluid, you are stable, and you have to contribute to that country in some way starting from the very beginning.
Well, so to me, becoming a citizen of the United States is a privilege. And throughout time, that has always been the case. And we have been very open to taking people from all walks of life in all countries and whatnot. And I fully support all of that. But at the end of the day, the number one role of government is to protect the country and protect the borders, right? And I know that sounds like a libertarian statement, but that's me, I guess. But I mean, so who you allow in is part of that. And as you said, Phil, I totally agree with you. All countries pretty much have that same mentality. I'll use myself as an example because I am currently what I would call on a path to citizenship in Mexico. So for those of you that are not aware, I've been coming down to Mexico for the last 5 or 6 years continuously, spending almost half my time here. And in doing that process, your initial beginnings are that you get a 6-month visa, which I've been doing. And then last year, I applied for my Residente Permanente. When I was accepted, and I now have my Mexican permanent residency card. So that in the United States, that's the equivalent of a green card. It gives you certain rights, but in order to get that, you have to prove financial solvency. You have to fill out this big application. You've got to submit to all the background checks and all this stuff. So there is a requirement, and it's not that easy, by the way. It's fairly complicated to do it. Once you hold your temporary residency and then permanent residency here in Mexico, you can apply to become a citizen, which I will do at the point at which I'm able to do that. That's a whole nother level, though. You've got to be fluent in Spanish in order to pass the test to become a citizen. Now, I have no intention, obviously, of giving up my American citizenship. I would never do that. But you can obviously be a dual citizen. So, but my point to this whole story is that it's a process. Mexico, as an example, because I know a lot of Americans like to rain on their southern neighbor, has all of these policies in place, and they don't just let anybody in,
Right.
as do no any other country. They're looking for people that have money. They're looking. You can get in on education grants. There's multiple paths to be, but all of them have something to do with how are you going to help and improve Mexico,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's what they want to know. And we've lost sight of that in America, I think, because it's the same thing. People were against Donald Trump's what they call it, the golden citizenship thing or whatever, where they could pay, I don't know, 5 million or 10 million or a bunch of money and become a citizenship. By the way, I'm fully in support of that. That is a
So
path.
am I.
Because why wouldn't we want the wealthiest people in America? Of course we would.
Or a person who had the ingenuity to come up with just, maybe that's all they have is 5 million. I want a person with that kind of get up and go.
Yes, that's right. So you're always going to be looking for educated people, wealthy people, people that have proven themselves, people that whatever, people that are fluent and can speak the language, people that can advance the culture of the United States. So my point in all this is not, Americans are missing, many Americans are missing the point here, that we are being left in the weeds because all these other countries, by the way, have this in place already.
I agree,
You know?
bro. Once you start really looking into citizenship worldwide, there's a Latin term called jus sanguinis, which means right of blood. And that is basically the law that at least 60 or 70% of the countries all over the world follow as the basis for citizenship. So even when you move to that country and you become a citizen of certain countries, you still do not have the citizenship of a person that was born there. Now, once you have a child there, that child will have what you don't have.
That's correct. So to go back to what they're talking about before the Supreme Court, what's your feeling on so here's the problem with, you could argue the birthright citizenship thing a couple different ways, right? I get both sides' argument on this a little bit. And one of the challenges that our immigration system has gotten bogged down with is that for many years now, it's if you were able to run, walk, hide, sneak across the border and be on U.S. soil, suddenly you have some kind of right towards a citizenship thing. And that is simply shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case in any country, right? That's a refugee status, right? So this is a whole different scenario. Now we could pass a thing, which we did, and this was the argument earlier on, I think a couple months ago, where we had brought in people that are now being rescinded because they were brought in under certain refugee statuses that have expired. Those were temporary statuses. Those people were supposed to come in under that status, and they were, quote, legal, but they were supposed to apply for a continued legality, and they did not. So I think the problem is that people have to understand, if you don't have laws and you don't follow laws, you don't have a country.
And it's not a good morale thing to see laws being implemented on you as the citizen and them being implemented tightly, and then immigrants breaking the law. That doesn't feel good.
Nope. And a lot of this controversy over the last 6 months or so has been, Donald Trump is infamous for one-liners, and one of the best one-liners I've ever heard Trump say talking about the immigration problem at the southern border, was because the argument was, is like, oh yeah, they're going to come in and they're going to make all these new laws and they're going to, it's going to be discriminatory. And Trump, basically his rebuttal to that was, you didn't need to make any new laws. You just needed a new president, because the laws existed. Biden before him just simply didn't follow the law. They didn't enforce anything.
I agree. Mike, do you notice that most of the big news as far as what's going on in the world, a lot of it is in South and Central America? Like we got the El Salvadorians, the U.S. and Panama just cut their deal to basically China out from using the Panama Canal, which I think is brilliant. What do you think about that? I think it should have always been like that. It's shocking that we did not have that already set in stone.
Yeah, we screwed up.
So this week, Mike, news came out that the CIA has files on Hitler living in Argentina, and up until about 10 years ago, we're still looking for him. And Argentina was one of the places that they thought he may be. They had strong evidence, not 100% accurate, but they had strong evidence to believe that that was a cadaver left in Germany and that he escaped to Argentina.
Well, so lots of Nazis did.
Yep.
Lots of Germans went to Argentina. That's one of the biggest immigration stories in history, to be honest. Argentina's full of that.
Yes.
I don't know enough about my math skills aren't good enough. Like, if could he even be alive anymore? He'd be too old, no?
No, but they like to close cases.
Yeah.
Sometimes they know, but they keep the case open. They may have found him. You never know, bro. We'll be dead when they tell the truth.
Yeah. The truth always comes out, though. We've talked about this before. It's slowly, like even the past election thing with the Biden and Harris and the internal Democratic Party nonsense that went on. It's all coming out now. There's multiple books, and there's going to be a bunch of movies, and people are talking, and so you can only keep something quiet for so long. COVID is another example of that. At this point, we kind of know it came from China. We know it came from a lab. Like, that was denied for months and years. You can't keep a secret. Ultimately, history resolves itself. I think we're waiting on right now. We've got stuff with JFK just came out as well. The assassination there, a bunch of stuff that was clearly something going on.
Yeah, but something tells me it's going to end up being like every bit of information we ever get. It's going to be a lot of stuff redacted.
Yep.
Even though, I guarantee you everything you want to know is going to be redacted.
Yeah, usually that's the case.
Because there's only so much. By the way,
I can't believe there's anything from the 60s that could be a security threat today.
I think they were more worried about certain families suing and the morale of the people during the time. Yeah, and there are still people who are alive who remember Kennedy, who still have feelings about him. Yes. So I think that's the issue.
Maybe.
It makes if we had something to do with it, it's bad for the morale of the country.
Yeah, agreed.
It's more palatable if everybody who ever could remember, like I remember seeing his little son walking and touching the casket. I remember all of that stuff. Once everybody is dead who can remember something about that moment, then it could be released.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike, are you familiar with what's going on in China? China has been basically, they have warships that are practicing around Australia. And they're not just like normal doing their normal warfare practice where maybe they do it for a month or so and leave. They're just going around Australia, just going around Australia. A side item to that is I can't think of the name of the submarine, but we have like 5 submarines that can like stay underwater for like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
One of them is in Australia, but it's not ready to go out into the water yet, but it's there because of the Chinese presence. This has all happened, and we also tidied up our deal with Panama, which would be a waterway from those waters if they were to want to cross over to the other side of the hemisphere. I think we are preparing for war.
I think
There's
well,
too many little pieces that all say we're preparing for war. We're trying to pull back our I believe the tariffs are like a smoke screen for us pulling back our manufacturing here to
I mean,
start
I do
having.
think we want to beat out China. I think if there was a war, China would go down very quickly. I think China is in worse shape than Russia. I mean, they're not a significant force.
Yeah, but it's 350 million of us and they got over a billion.
There's a lot of people for sure.
And their country will be far more reckless in their lives to keep their empire going than America.
Well, they're certainly reckless. I mean, look at Ukraine's been marching around Chinese soldiers that they captured that were fighting for the Russians. So China's just sending some, they don't care. Yeah, I mean, look at the factories. Look at all those people buying all your clothing and everything that you're getting. That you're always, you know, on one side of the coin telling me how we're not living our best life and being nice to people, and you're buying clothes that are being made by 10-year-old kids in China. So, I mean,
Well, something that already paid off for me, Mike. You remember a few weeks back, I was telling you I kept it a secret until I purchased everything. I doubled up on a bunch of DJI items and stuff like
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Go on their website now. Pretty much every accessory is 25 to 40% higher.
yeah, yeah.
They haven't upped the prices on the actual
Drones.
things like the drones and the cameras and stuff.
Yeah,
But any kind of accessory is like significantly more
yeah.
expensive. And also when you go on like Amazon and different places, you have to check to make sure that whoever you order from has it in stock. A lot of places don't have them in stock. So things are starting to go down.
Mhm. Well, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, this tariff thing. I mean, I said it from the beginning. It's not one of my favorite things going on, and it does boggle my mind a little bit. There's Trump policies that I agree with, the border, fair share of certain. I mean, there's a bunch of things that I think trying to cut out waste in the government, and various things that I've seen successful. The economic policy doesn't seem that good to me. And at what point is he going to decide that you're killing the economy? And it's too much too fast. I mean, I don't know. I just.
Well, they're never going to consider the small person. If big business is surviving, there'll be no change.
But I think it's going to suffer. I think big
Oh, I do too.
businesses, they're starting to, between automakers and electronics makers, and you've got a couple huge court cases going on right now with both Google and Meta. You've got potentials with both of those companies being split up. So there's a lot going on with big companies right now.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that like there are some executive orders on tariffs that Trump has either adjusted or gotten rid of, little minor ones for like Apple, for certain
Yep.
minerals and things like that. So they're making adjustments for some of these bigger companies to keep going.
Yep.
And I think that'll continue. And as long as like your Fortune 500 companies aren't hurting and he makes adjustments for them to not hurt, he's going to continue on. We'll have $20 eggs if they got to have them.
But what's the end game?
The end game has nothing to do with all the things stated. It's for all the big boys to get more power. It's for Elon Musk is there because he's hoping to establish more government contracts with the SpaceX and to make deals for his manufacturing for Tesla. And that's the strategy of most of these companies. The people who are actually inside the government, they're trying to be aligned with these businesses so that they can trade illegally and become millionaires. So it's a rigged game, man.
Well, I mean, it's always been a rigged game on both sides. I mean, I saw an interesting article the other day, they were talking about insider trading because of the manipulation of the stock market and Trump, tweeting out good time to buy, blah, blah, blah. By the way, what they didn't tell you in the article, because it was an attack, I think, on Marjorie Taylor Greene in particular, who I'm not a fan of, but what they didn't tell you in the article is that this was released out to both sides, and there were a bunch of investments and sale and purchases made by Democrats as well. So this wasn't a set the stock market up so Republicans can get wealthy. Oh, no. I mean, that's where the media misleads you.
Mike, did you hear about Trump signing an executive order to establish a government Bitcoin reserve? This happened a few weeks ago now. I wanted to talk about it earlier, but we ended up talking about other things, and this keeps getting pushed to the side. But I'm really curious what you think about this. I think it's a way to control the cryptocurrency.
Yeah, because the idea of cryptocurrency was going to be not government involvement, right? So this is counter to that. And you got to remember the government has long been trying to sort of eliminate money, currency because that's a way you can control everybody if it was electronic, right? So, I mean, I see a lot of things that make me nervous, particularly as somebody that's like libertarian, likes to live off grid.
Well, this is
much government involvement in general.
This is my question, Mike, because I mean, I assumed only two things could happen with cryptocurrency: either what's about to happen, or it was going to be eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And no other options.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with what was
that
right
it's
or wrong.
Not going to be eliminated.
Right. So my question is, why does the government have the right to create a SEC crypto task force? That's the first thing. And should the government be able to interject itself in finances outside the constructs of the government?
Particularly cryptocurrency, which is outside the confines of the country altogether. It's often very international.
I have an issue with this in so many ways. Let's say I thought that the government was responsible to some extent. How could I trust my cryptocurrency in the hands of a financial institution, and I'm calling the government a financial institution? How could I feel comfortable with them handling my cryptocurrency when the currency that they've been using, at least for the past 50 years, isn't even backed by anything?
Right. I know.
So if there was some kind of crash and you are in control of both of them, I'm seeing cryptocurrency protecting the dollar in some kind of depression or some kind of crash. Am I making sense?
You're making sense. Yes. And they're starting to manipulate that. So I don't know.
I think this is going to be a way to funnel money, and that the $17 billion they already have that the government has out there, uh, they're gonna figure out ways they're gonna give it to people.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna let that money sit there. Because right now they have $17 million or something.
Oh my God.
17 billion. I said million. I'm sorry. 17 billion.
Yeah.
That money is sitting there. I don't know if people realize that the government actually has $17 billion worth of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And government officials do not like seeing a big amount of money and they can't do something with it.
Right. Right. It's unallocated.
Right. They want it allocated to them.
Yeah, of
or
course.
allocated to some company that they can invest in trade and I can't think of the word. You know, when you get the information before everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insider trading. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, any new updates about what's going on with you and
no, we're gonna talk. I got some good. We got some big stuff to talk about next week. We might have a guest on here. I got some updates on my side. We'll talk about next week. I will see everybody at. We are. What is today? Today is April 17th, and 1 month from today, I will see all of you guys in the Overland world in Flagstaff, Arizona, with Phil.
Absolutely.
At Overland Expo.
And tell them about your trip again in case they don't know.
Monday the 19th, which is immediately following Overland Expo, myself and 8 other participants are taking 8 vintage vehicles on the backcountry discovery routes of both Arizona and New Mexico on a 2-week trip, years ranging from 1958 all the way to maybe the newest is in the early 80s. We've got some pretty famous people in the Overland world going. Mike Hussey, who was the winner of the Camel Trophy back in the 90s, I believe, is on board for this. Peter Vollers, who ran Vermont Overland for many years, is involved. Jerry, from the owner of Tembo Tusk, is going on the trip. So there's a lot of interesting vehicles, and we're really looking forward to that.
So Midland is sending you guys a bunch of radios, and they'll be.
Yeah. So we had talked about one of the you and I have talked about this on the podcast before. One of the most critical things of any trip, particularly when you have a group, and you and I have traveled together before, but 8 vehicles is a lot of vehicles. So the most critical element of a trip like that is going to be communication, because as you know, particularly on, this trip is all off-road. So you tend to get split up. You tend to have vehicle issues. There could be challenging terrain. You got to be able to communicate from front of group to back of group at all times. So Midland Radios has come on board to sponsor this expedition, which we are super excited about. And we're going to be outfitting all of the trucks with radios on board, so we can communicate on the trip. And those will be installed. Hopefully they'll be installed in most of the vehicles. Well, they got to be installed by the end of Overland Expo, but hopefully they'll be installed in some of the vehicles, or many of them, and they'll be on display. So that's the other thing. Shout out to Overland Expo. They have created a special space for us in the quad area. If you're familiar with Flagstaff Overland Expo, That is the middle of area where all the big players are, kind of wedged in between Overland and the classrooms and all AT Overland and all the big players. So we're going to be parked in that area with the 8 trucks. So come on and check us out. We'll be excited to show you our rigs and go over. If you guys are listening and want to know about radios, come check out our Midland radios that are going to be installed in those. So it'll be a good time.
And one last thing about Midland, Midland is a leader in two-way communication technology and is proud to announce its return as the official off-road communication sponsor of Jeep Beach 2025, the world's largest Jeep exclusive gathering, taking place from April 18th through 27th in Daytona Beach, Florida. This marks Midland's second year sponsoring the premier event, which attracts thousands of Jeep enthusiasts to celebrate their love for the iconic brand and its vibrant community. The event offers a thrilling lineup of activities, including off-road adventures, cruising the drivable beach, and shopping from top gear vendors like Midland. Attendees can also check out the legendary Daytona International Speedway and drive their Jeep through the challenging obstacle course. As the official off-road communication sponsor, Midland ensures Jeep owners stay connected and safe, even in the most remote locations where cell service is unreliable. Midland's high-performance communication solutions and accessories provide off-roaders with reliable, long-range connectivity no matter the terrain or conditions. And just one last thing, guys. Midland will be showcasing its latest gear at Cracker Ranch Off-Road Park on April 23rd through 24th and at the JB25 main event and vendor show located on the Speedway from April 25th through 26th. Attendees can get hands-on experience with the Midland's range of Jeep-branded communication tools.
So Midland is busy.
For more information and registration details on Jeep Beach, visit www.jeepbeach.com. All right.
One of these years, I'm going to go down there. My friends, Light Bright Nation, go there all the time, and I want to hook up with those guys at some point and hang out down at Daytona. It would be fun.
All right, guys. You know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.